Hey, what's going on, guys? Today we're going to take a look at the Redmi Note 6 Pro and what it's like actually living with this phone. If you haven't seen one of my living with videos before, we're basically going to talk about what it's like living with the phone on a day-to-day basis and just hit some highlights and lowlights of the phone, as well as who it's for and who it isn't. Not going to be a full in-depth review, I'm just going to try to tell you what it's actually like living with and using this phone every day. Time codes for all this stuff will be in the description down below. If you want to jump around the video, by all means, feel free. Now today we're going to start with who this phone is not for, because I think there's a lot more positives than there are negatives, and if we get the negatives out of the way, then, you know, it makes the picture a lot more clear in my opinion. So who's this phone not for? If you hate the notch, if you hate a big notch, if you think the notch is stupid and you can't live with it, this phone's not for you. So you can hopefully see there on camera, have it disabled, but the notch is pretty massive. Now I have a OnePlus 6T, and that notch is really small. I don't mind that notch because it's so small, but on the Redmi Note 6 Pro, the notch is so big I have it disabled because I just hate it. Now, you do get the battery percentage there top right on MIUI 10, so if you're trying to figure out if this phone's for you or not, if you've seen content with MIUI 9, you didn't have the actual numerical battery percentage inside the battery icon, but we do get that option on MIUI 10, which is awesome. That said, we still can't disable that clock there top left. If we could, we'd be able to fit some notification icons up there, but as of right now you can't. I've tried some system, UI tweaker hacks to try and get that to work, and it hasn't thus far. So if you can't do the notch, this phone is not for you. Next, if you like USB-C, you hate micro USB, again, phone's not for you. Micro USB on this phone, charging's pretty slow. It doesn't have quick charging. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. Micro USB on this phone, an obvious negative. Rear cameras are just kind of meh. I mean, for a $200 phone, I guess they get the job done, but the rear cameras are really not impressive at all. And that's about all the negatives that I have with this phone. You got the notch, the rear cameras, and the micro USB. So who is this phone for? Well, if those negatives, micro USB, cameras, and notch don't apply to you, then this phone's probably for you. I mean, if you're on a budget, seriously guys, Snapdragon 636 and MIUI 10 is such a great combination. MIUI is so well optimized. MIUI 10, let me specify that, because I've had a lot more experience with that OS version or skin version on the Snapdragon 636 specifically. Just optimized super well. The phone runs super smooth, so if you're on a budget, you just want something that performs really well day to day, runs really smooth, opens apps quickly, this is a very good option. Now, if you want some pretty fast updates, again, Xiaomi's pretty good with that. It's not a Pixel by any means, but if you want fast updates, this phone's, again, probably for you. If you want a great front-facing camera for selfies, you take a lot of selfies, then again, this phone's for you. The front-facing camera is pretty solid for the money. The rear camera's not, but the front-facing one is. And my favorite thing about this phone, if you need a phone that's a battery champ, 2 days between charges, this phone's for you. 4,000 milliamp hour battery, 4,000 milliamp hours with a Snapdragon 636. Man, the battery on this thing is awesome. I mean, approaching Mi Max 3 level awesome. So yeah, there's not a whole lot more to say than that. It's been really good on battery life. So this phone is for you if you need a phone that lasts all day, or a couple days I guess in this case, if you want that front-facing camera to be pretty solid, and if you want a phone on a budget that performs really well overall. It's also got a really good screen, that's worth noting too. It's an IPS screen, but it looks really solid. The contrast is solid on it. I don't have any pictures to show you guys, but the screen's good. So overall highlights and lowlights of the phone. IR blaster on the top of the phone, headphone jack. I didn't mention either of those things and who's this phone for, but those are two positives that deserve being called out. Bottom firing speaker is also pretty solid. It is just a single speaker, it's not a stereo speaker like you get on a lot of flagships nowadays, but hey, phone's $200 bucks. Other positives, I like the metal back instead of glass. The fingerprint reader, let me see if I can do this and show you guys on camera. Fingerprint reader is super quick, no issues there on my end. I mean, Yeah, fingerprint scanner's been pretty awesome. Way better than the Mi A2, if you guys remember me complaining about that one. Now, negatives on the phone. Again, micro USB on the bottom. Rear camera is not great. And the notch. That's about it, guys. Like I said, we're trying to keep this short and sweet, and living with this phone every day, if those three negatives don't really apply to you, then pull the trigger on this phone. It's a great value. I am running the 4 gig of RAM, 64 gig ROM version, so 3 gigs of RAM, you're cutting it kind of close. Let's look here top right. We'll see that I'm using about 2.2 gigs right now. I've approached 3, I've crossed 3 a couple of times, so I'd recommend spending the extra $20 to get the extra gig of RAM personally, but hey, that's just me. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you have another question or there's something I missed, let me know in the comments down below. I'll make sure that I reply to you and try to help you out and figure out if this phone's for you or not. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.